Okay, welcome back to lecture 13.3, where we're going to introduce the Carnot cycle. Okay, so this is a very important and very fundamental cycle in thermodynamics, and I hope to eventually give you a deep understanding of why. Okay? So remember that the key feature of our second law of thermodynamics was that if we wanted to do some work, we needed to have at least two temperatures, right? So this is the key feature. This is one of the things you can take out of the second law. Therefore, when constructing a cycle to say do work, right? So if you want net work, we will need two thermal reservoirs. We're going to call those T hot and T cold. One's got to always be hotter than the other. That's the nature of things. All right, so let's look, for example, if we imagine two reservoirs. So one process you can imagine is doing something isothermally, right? So you can imagine going, say, from one state, A, to another state, B, along an isotherm. And if we go from A to B, what's the work? Well, the work, let's be explicit, the work from A to B was minus, so this is say V1 to V2, minus the integral from V1 to V2 of P dV. And for an ideal gas, so take note, we're going to do the Carnot cycle for an ideal gas. We'll later talk about whether or not it's applicable to other things, but just like in all of our examples, let's start with the one that makes the case the simplest. Let's start with the ideal gas. We will find in the end that it doesn't matter for the Carnot cycle what kind of material you're going to use. Okay, so for an ideal gas, when we did this, we got that the work that went from A to B was minus nRT log of V2 over V1. Right, so when we did V2 is greater than V1, this was expansion, this was positive, and we had negative, right? So we had a negative work when we did expansion. Okay, so remember this is completely reversible. So if we went from A to B and then we went back, the net work would be 0, right? So the work in this from A to B to A was 0 because it was a completely reversible process. All right, so that's not going to get us net work. How about for our adiabat? How about our adiabat? Adiabat's nice because when we start thinking about the second law, the first law, remember when we do these problems, we always really are thinking about the first law. And we're gonna, if we have a closed loop and we come back to A, we know delta U is a state, so we know U is a state function, so delta U is 0. We want to be able to calculate the work. We also want to be able to calculate the heat. Nice thing about the adiabat is the heat is 0, right? And we can calculate the work. All right, so along an adiabat, the work we go, say, from, let's do just A to B again. We start at that same A, but we go to B, it would be, it's steeper. A to B. It's not a straight line. It has some slope, some curvature. Okay, so let's imagine that curvature. Remember that along an adiabat, we have P to the PV to the gamma equals a constant. And when we calculated our work, we did this. You'll have to look up which lecture it is. I don't know it off the top of my head. I can look it up for class if you want to ask me then. P1 V1 to the gamma over gamma to minus 1. 1 over V2 to the gamma minus 1 minus 1 over V1 to the gamma minus 1. Okay, so that was the work done along an adiabat. But again, remember, this is completely reversible. So if I go from, let's say, V1 to V2, so this was A to B, but the work from A to B to A is 0. Okay, so what if we instead combine these? What do I mean? So the Carnot cycle says, let's draw it big for now. Well, if I start as a state A, okay, and a little bit higher. So start at state A, which is some high pressure, low volume, and I perform a isothermal this is an isotherm at T hot, an isothermal expansion to V2. Okay. Now, I want to come back up along another isotherm because remember our second law says we need 2 isotherms, right? We need 2 temp thermal reservoirs. Let's see if I can make those parallel. So if I'm going to have another isotherm, say, at T cold, how can I connect these? Well, I could connect these with an adiabat, right? So here's my adiabat. Between B and C. So I can do an isothermal expansion and then an adiabatic expansion to some higher volume. Then I can do an isothermal compression till I get to just the right temperature, just the right pressure and volume. Let me make it a little bit earlier, where I can then connect back to A along another adiabat. So we already know that the net work is going to be the area inside of this, right? And we're going to show that this is an excellent process, okay? So let's just graphically represent what we mean by when we do those things, okay? So the process is going to look something like this. We're going to have the system start in state A. Okay. So in state A, we're going to imagine a piston with adiabatic walls. Okay, these are adiabatic. But, so here's my piston. So this is state A. But in the bottom of my piston, I'm going to have it an interchangeable base. Okay, so this is going to be my prep state at T hot. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to, so let me actually make my piston just a little bit further down. Okay, good. All right, so the next thing I want to do is state B. I'm going to try to draw this to scale as much as I can. I am not good at this. Okay, so I'm still going to have it connected to my thermal reservoir, right? But I'm going to allow it, I am going to go from V1 to V2, right? So this is my process of isothermal expansion. Okay, so this is my first expansion. Now, how do I get to state C? So what I'm kind of doing is trying to imagine the practical realization of this Carnot cycle. So now I'm going to remove that thermal reservoir, right? And I'm going to add an insulating layer, right? So that this one is now also adiabatic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand even further, right? So this is my adiabatic expansion. Maybe I'll add some insulation to my piston so we know that it's insulating also. Okay, so now we've gone to V3, right? We've done this expansion. Might even call this one V4. So in D, or step D, right? So this is state A. We prepped in state A. We did an isothermal expansion to B. We did an adiabatic expansion to D. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect it again, but now to a new reservoir. All right, so this is going to change the temperature to TC, right, to the lower temperature. And now that we're at that lower temperature, we're going to connect a thermal reservoir at TC. And what we're going to do is we're going to compress it again. Okay? So when we compress it, kind of compressing it more than V3, we started at V3, we're going to compress it past V2, but not quite as far as V1. So let's see if I can try to come up with something that looks like that. Right? So this is going to be an isothermal compression to V4. And then finally, back to A, right, where we're going to what we're going to do is we're going to have an insulating layer again. And we're going to compress it back to V1. So we're going to do an adiabatic compression. Okay, so that is both graphically on a PV diagram and sort of how one might implement that in a piston by changing our heat reservoirs between TH, an insulator, and TC. Okay? So next time what we're going to do is we're going to take the Carnot cycle and we're going to calculate the heat and work in all of these processes from A to B, B to C, C to D. So I'm going to actually leave that one up there so that we can do this calculation. But we'll go to 11.4. Sorry, 13.4.